is degrees. So that is what we're going to talk about today. So degree is, in order to understand degree, you basically have to start off in knowing what are scales. So scale is basically arrangement of pitches or notes. So pitch is nothing but the sound which you play, right? Like A, B, C, D, E, F, G and whatnot. So scale is arrangement of pitches. Now, like the screen says, it is going to start and end with the same note. For example, if I say C scale, it is going to start with C and it is going to end with C. So it will go like C, D, E, F, G, A, B and C. Alright. If I say G scale, it is going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F and G. Now these scales, what is the purpose of these scales is, let's take an example of a standard 15 centimeter scale which you have. You use that scale to draw boxes and rectangles and whatnot in a specific dimension which you want. The same way you build a song with these scales. Now why did I talk about scale is because degree is directly related to the scale. So let's take this example and let me turn on my awesome pointer. Okay, I hope everybody can see this red flying thing. All right, so in this, for example, let's look at this. This is a C scale, right? So it starts with C, D, E, F, G, A, B and it ends in C. All right, so C and it is ending in C. So this is a C scale. Now let's take a look at this one. This starts at G and it is ending in G again. So this is going to be your G scale. Now, there are different things like G major, G minor, etc, etc. We're not going to deal with all that right now. It is just G scale, C scale and F scale. That's all you have right now. So now in here, if you look at C scale, the C is in the first place of the scale, right? Now that is what we call it as degree. So C is in the first degree. So degrees are basically the placeholders of the scale. So C is in the first place. So that's the first degree. D is in the second place, E is in the third, F in the fourth, G, A, B and C is in the eighth place again. Now these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the Roman numerals, all these things are degrees. Alright. Now let's take the same example. Let's change it for a G scale. Now if you look at G scale, again what you have is G is on the first place, A is on the second, B is on the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You see the degree as in the placeholder remains the same on almost every scale, just the notes alone change according to the scale. So in C scale, for example, G comes on the fifth degree, whereas in G scale, D comes on the fifth degree. In F scale, C comes on the fifth degree. So this is what degree is all about. Degree is just the placeholder of the notes in a specific scale. What is the use of having these degrees? Now we were talking about chords in the previous session. Then I said, we need degrees in order to understand chords better. Why? Because these placeholders and these, the degree as such is what we use in order to build chords. Alright, so that is what we're going to look at now. Now why do we need degrees? Well, basically degree is what you actually use to build chords. In the previous session we were talking about enemy and friend rule. That is like, you take C and then you keep D as your enemy, don't use it, then you use E as your friend, then F as your enemy and G as your friend. So C, E, G makes up C chord. That's how we were talking about. Well, the actual way of figuring out is first, third and fifth put together is called the C chord or chord per se. So in this case we have C, E and G. If I take an example of G chord, G, assume that it is in G scale, so start with G to G. It's not a major, it's not a minor, just consider it as G scale. It starts with G and ends with G. From G, what comes after, from G, what comes on the third place? From G is G, A, B, then G, A, B, C, D. So 1, 3, 5 makes up G chord. G, B, D again. So root, okay, I'll come to the names again. So 1, 3 and 5 makes up the chordal degree. So these elements, all these, 1, 3, 5, the G, B, D, all these things are called chordal factors or chordal notes. we talked about, in order to build a chord we need to know two major things. One is the degree, which we talked about, and the other one is the interval, that is the distance of each of these degrees. So here, for example, I have written 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, but then the distance in terms of this 1 and 2, especially in terms of sound, I'm not talking about how these things look in terms of sound, how far is the first degree and the second degree, this is defined by the interval. So interval talks about distance between the degrees or distance between two notes. All right, so when you take these degrees in a specific distance, then you build up different varieties of chords, like major chords, minor chords, added, sixth, suspended, fourth. All these complicated ones fall by means of using degrees and intervals put together. So there are only two major things which you need to know. One is what note to play in terms of chord. We find it by means of using degrees, 1 3 5 etc. And two, what distance these notes have to be, whether it is C to E or C to E flat or C to E sharp, whatever it is, right? So these are the only two aspects which you need to know in order to start building your chords.